What's up, filthy mammals? Prassicor here for what I hope turns out to be a fun, speculative thought experiment. Quick note before we get started, if you hear weird sounds in the background, the cold is literally crushing my house from the outside in. So if you hear like weird cracks and ticks, that's what that is. It's that cold out. Anyway, this video is going to be an adaptation and expansion of a tweet made by Slimebeast. If you don't know who that is, he is the author of several well-known creepypastas, as well as the creator of games like Camp Cadaver. So I'll post a couple of links so that you can check his stuff out. Really creative, really cool guy. Anyway, this is an adaptation and expansion of a tweet made by Slimebeast speculating on what Peter Benchley's novel Jaws might be like if it had been adapted in the same manner as Candle Cove and No End House were for Channel Zero. Again, in case you don't know, which if you don't know, I mean, really, why are you watching this anyway? But for those of you who might need a refresher course, Channel Zero is the television show on Sci-Fi that adapts popular creepypasta. Their first episode was an adaptation of Candle Cove, and their second season was an adaptation of No End House, and they'll be adapting more as time goes on into the future. Anyway, Slimebeast claimed in his original tweet that the show would be about a suburban swimming pool that contains a female ghost inhabiting a body made of pool floats. And really, that probably is not too far from the mark. Channel Zero is infamous for the many myriad ways in which it changes, and many would argue ruins, its source material. So we're going to be, just to kind of really crystallize how absurd the changes that Channel Zero makes to its source material are, we're going to be looking at something that has been adapted for the screen in the past, rather very, very, very well known, in fact, and see if the same techniques had been applied, what that adaptation would look like. So let's get started. As with both seasons of Channel Zero, the actual story would be relegated to the very first episode. A shark would start attacking people in a New England island town, and the town would hire a group of people to kill the shark after it threatens to ruin the town's crucial summer tourist boom. That's it. There's your first episode. Just as the entire story of Candle Cove and most of the story of No End House were relegated to those first episodes, and then the rest of the episodes went off and did other crazy made-up shit. Same thing with the Jaws adaptation. The shark would be killed at the end of the first episode. The remaining 5 episodes would all center around an investigation into a mystery surrounding a rash of murders that start taking place in the town, kind of like the first season of Channel Zero. Borrowing a ridiculous plot point from the novelization of Jaws the Revenge, the 4th Jaws movie, it would be revealed at the end of the season that the shark was sent as part of an ancient voodoo curse against the Brody family. The only victims of the shark will have been Brody family members or people swimming near them. When the shark is killed, the curse caster sends something else to Amity Island to torment not only the Brody family, but all those involved with killing the first shark. Why this curse was cast in the first place, or who cast it, will not be explained or elaborated on, much as nothing is ever explained or elaborated on in Channel Zero. Things just happen. Spooky things. Ooh. Just as both the Skin Taker and the No End House itself were heavily altered, in name in the case of the former and in fundamental nature in the case of the latter, the great white shark would be changed to another species. The makers of Channel Zero justified changing the name of the Skin Taker to Jawbone by claiming it was a more realistic name for a children's show character. So in the same vein, they would change the shark to a bull shark, since it's more likely that a bull shark would attack beachgoers in the manner of the shark in the story. Remember though, only the first episode would actually feature the shark. The rest of the series would then turn its attention to something entirely different, just as with the Tooth Child in Season 1 and the House Clones of Season 2. This could be any number of things, but for the sake of something that has a cool, marketable design, we'll say that it's a shark-headed golem-type thing, which we shall call Jollum. that's been sent to the town to punish those who are involved in killing the shark, as well as to finish off the Brody family once and for all. For the characters, you could go the one extreme of no end house and simply remove all the main characters entirely. No Martin Brody, no Matt Hooper, no Quint, and most importantly of all, no Anchor Suit Mayor. But we'll be generous and go the Season 1 route of retaining at least some of the main characters from the original story. But in the Channel Zero vein of taking something interesting and forcing it into standard, mindlessly executed horror tropes and cliches, Martin Brody would no longer be a chief of police, but instead a writer who travels to Amity Island looking for inspiration for his new book, perhaps looking to explore his fear of the ocean, though even that might be giving them too much credit. Instead of a well-regarded authority on sharks, Matt Hooper would have been expelled from university for his bizarre, unorthodox thesis regarding the relationship between sharks and voodoo curses, thereby turning him into Mr. Exposition. And instead of a World War II veteran who developed a hatred for sharks during his time stranded at sea after the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, Quint would hate sharks because one killed his brother. Of course, instead of the legendary score by John Williams, which emphasizes the shark's simple, primal strength and ruthless determination to kill and devour its victims, the music would employ random beats and high strings and percussion frequently and consistently throughout the entire program. So instead of having a specific, fitting leitmotif that highlights the characteristics of the shark, the music would be in a constant position of having to remind the audience that they're watching a horror show. As both seasons of Channel Zero feature edgy, nonsensical, and overused horror tropes, we can safely assume that Channel Zero Jaws would feature screens flashing random imagery, like shark jaws, the Jawlum dancing down a spooky hallway like an epileptic gibbon, eerie messages cut into people's arms, and perhaps a creepy psychic child who has nightmares about sharks just for shits and giggles. Rather than being reluctant to show the Jawlum on camera, preferring to reveal its presence through things like POV shots and the aforementioned music, leaving the horror to viewers' imaginations, the Channel Zero version would show the monster at every possible opportunity, diminishing any potential visual impact it had exponentially with each new shot, until it's just another boring plastic and/or digital set piece. If Jaws had been adapted in the same manner of Candle Cove, I predict it would have been about a voodoo curse plaguing horror writer Martin Brody and his family in the form of both a bull shark attacking family members, and then, after this shark is killed, a Jawlum that goes around killing everyone in town who had a hand in killing the shark. If you think this is an overly convoluted, plot-hole-ridden, substantively empty bastardization of a simple horror story that could be otherwise adapted with masterful suspense, nuance, and depth, well, such feelings are par for the course when it comes to Channel Zero. As stated before, this is a simple thought experiment meant to emphasize just how drastic and ridiculous the changes made by Channel Zero are. Whether or not you like Channel Zero or think it's any good, you can't deny that the showrunners made extreme changes regarding the stories and characters most people would argue were unnecessary and added needless complexity to otherwise basic online horror tales. In my opinion, adapting creepypasta for other forms of media is at best very difficult and at worst woefully misguided. Some stories, like Candle Cove, are so tied to the conventions of the Ashcan school of internet horror that they cannot be translated to television. Other stories, like No End House, though they lend themselves better to television, need to be made by people who understand the genre and respect it enough to adapt it effectively. Regardless of what Max Landis or anyone else says, the creators of Channel Zero have demonstrated very conclusively that they have neither that understanding nor respect.